The morning mist clung to the abandoned industrial district like a shroud, muffling the sounds of Marcus Rivera's boots against broken concrete. He'd been scavenging these ruins for 3 years now, ever since he'd walked away from his military engineering career. The skeletal remains of factories and warehouses provided endless supplies of metal, wire, and components that kept him alive and independent. Marcus adjusted his worn leather jacket against the autumn chill and checked his salvage scanner. Today felt different somehow, charged with possibility. As he rounded the corner of a collapsed overpass, a glint of unfamiliar metal caught his eye. Nestled between twisted steel beams and chunks of debris lay something that definitely wasn't human technology. The craft was small, maybe the size of a large car, but its surface shimmered with an opalescent quality that shifted colors in the weak sunlight. Burn marks and deep gouges scarred its hull, telling the story of a violent entry through Earth's atmosphere. Smoke still wisped from several breach points. Marcus approached cautiously, his engineering mind automatically cataloging the damage. Whatever this thing was, it had taken a beating. As he circled the wreckage, a soft sound stopped him cold. Not mechanical, but organic. A moan of pain. He grabbed his crowbar and carefully pried open what looked like an access hatch. The metal gave way with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, and Marcus found himself staring into 2 pairs of the most beautiful eyes he'd ever seen. The first belonged to a young woman, perhaps in her early 20s by human standards. Her skin held a soft golden hue, almost luminescent, and delicate patterns of silver traced along her temples and down her neck like living tattoos. Despite obvious injuries, she possessed an ethereal beauty that made Marcus's breath catch. Beside her lay a younger male, clearly her brother based on their similar features. He couldn't have been more than 16, and his breathing came in shallow, pained gasps. A deep gash across his shoulder bled a fluid that glowed faintly blue. The woman's eyes met Marcus's, and he saw intelligence there, along with desperate fear and exhaustion. She tried to speak, her voice melodic despite her weakness, but the words were in no language he recognized. "Hey, it's okay," Marcus said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm here to help." She seemed to understand his tone, if not his words. With tremendous effort, she pointed to her brother and spoke again, urgency clear in her voice. Marcus didn't hesitate. He'd seen enough battlefield injuries to recognize someone bleeding out. "Let me get you both out of there." Carefully, he lifted the unconscious boy first, surprised by how light he felt, despite being nearly human-sized. The woman tried to stand on her own, but swayed dangerously. Without thinking, Marcus caught her around the waist, feeling the warmth of her skin through her torn clothing. For a moment, they stood pressed together, her hand against his chest as she steadied herself.
Ow.
Their eyes met again, and something electric passed between them. She whispered what might have been thanks, her breath warm against his neck. "My place isn't far," Marcus said, more to himself than to her. "I can patch you both up there." As he helped them away from the crash site, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that his solitary life had just changed forever. Beside him, occasionally glancing up with those luminous eyes, and he found himself wanting to protect her with an intensity that surprised him. Behind them, alien craft continued to smoke, but Marcus was already planning how to salvage useful materials from it later. Right now, saving these 2 beautiful strangers was all that mattered. Marcus's workshop occupied the ground floor of an old automotive garage, its high ceiling and reinforced walls perfect for his needs. He'd spent months making it comfortable, installing solar panels, water filtration, and a small living area behind his workspace. Now, as he helped his unexpected guests inside, he was grateful for every modification. The woman supported her brother while Marcus cleared his workbench, pushing aside circuit boards and half-assembled devices. "Here, lay him down. Here," he said, gesturing to the padded surface. She understood his meaning and helped settle her brother onto the bench. Close, Marcus could see the extent of their injuries. Both bore cuts and bruises from the crash, but the boy's shoulder wound was the most serious The strange blue fluid had slowed but not stopped. Marcus gathered his medical supplies, acquired during his military days and supplemented with civilian gear. The woman watched his every move with wary intelligence. When he approached with antiseptics and bandages, she stepped protectively between him and her brother. "I need to clean his wound," Marcus explained, miming washing motions. Infection could kill him. Something in his expression must have convinced her. She spoke in her musical language, and though Marcus couldn't understand the words, her tone was clearly asking permission. After a moment, she nodded and stepped aside, but remained close enough to intervene if needed. Working on alien physiology proved challenging, but Marcus's steady hands and gentle manner seemed to reassure both siblings. As he cleaned and dressed the boy's wound, the woman gradually relaxed. She began examining Marcus's workshop, her fingers trailing over tools and partially assembled devices with obvious curiosity. "You're an engineer too," Marcus observed, watching her handle a complex circuit with the familiarity of someone who understood technology. She looked up at his words and pointed to herself. "Nira," she said clearly. "Nira," Marcus repeated, liking how her name felt on his tongue. He pointed to himself. "Marcus," she echoed, and somehow it sounded more beautiful in her accent. She gestured to her still unconscious brother. "Kes, Nira, and Kes," Marcus said, committing their names to memory. "Welcome to Earth." Over the next few hours, communication gradually improved through gestures, drawings, and shared work. Nira helped Marcus move Kes to a more comfortable bed in the living area, and she proved surprisingly strong despite her slender build. When their hands accidentally touched while adjusting blankets, both felt that same electric connection from the crash site. As evening approached, Marcus prepared a simple meal while Nira attended to her brother. She'd found Marcus's small collection of technical manuals and was studying them with intense concentration, occasionally making notes in symbols he didn't recognize. "You learn fast," Marcus commented, setting down bowls of soup. Nira looked up and smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. It transformed her entire face, making her even more radiant. She pointed to the manual, then to various pieces of equipment around the workshop, asking questions with her eyes. Understanding her curiosity, Marcus began explaining his projects. He showed her the water purification system he'd built from salvaged parts, the solar charging array, and his pride and joy, a communication device he'd been working on for months, and his eyes lit up when she saw the communicator. She examined it carefully, then began making adjustments with Marcus's tools. Her movements were precise, confident, and when she activated the device, it suddenly worked better than it ever had. "Incredible," Marcus breathed, watching her work. Their eyes met over the improved device, and the attraction between them was undeniable. Nira set down the tools and stepped closer to Marcus, her golden skin seeming to glow in the workshop's warm light. "Thank you," she said, in accented but clear English. Having picked up the phrase from listening to him, Marcus reached out and gently touched her cheek, marveling at the silver patterns that seemed to respond to his touch. "You don't need to thank me. I couldn't leave you both out there." Nira leaned into his touch, her own hand covering his. For a moment, the world consisted only of the two of them. Connected by something deeper than language or species, a soft groan from Kes broke the spell, and both rushed to check on him. But as they tended to the boy together, working in perfect harmony, Marcus realized he was already thinking of them as family. 3 days had passed since the crash, and Kes was finally strong enough to sit up and take solid food. His recovery had been remarkable, aided by both Marcus's care and what appeared to be natural alien healing abilities. Nira had proven herself invaluable, not only nursing her brother, but also helping Marcus improve several of his devices with her advanced technical knowledge. The growing bond between Marcus and Nira had deepened with each shared moment. Working side by side in the workshop, their hands would brush as they passed tools, sending sparks of attraction through both of them. During quiet evenings, they sat close together as Nira taught Marcus's words in her language, while he helped her perfect her English. But their peaceful sanctuary was about to be shattered. "Marcus," was outside checking the solar panels when he noticed. The birds had gone silent. Years of military training kicked in, and he immediately scanned the horizon. 3 dark shapes moved against the cloudy sky, 2 regular in formation to be aircraft. As they drew closer, he could see they weren't human in design, sleek, angular craft that moved with predatory grace. He ran inside to find Nira helping Kess with physical therapy exercises. The moment she saw Marcus's expression, her face went pale. "Hunters," she whispered, the English word heavy with dread. "From your world?" Marcus asked, already moving to secure the workshop. She nodded, her luminous eyes wide with fear. "They found us. We must run." But Kess tried to stand and immediately stumbled, still too weak for flight. Marcus caught him, feeling the young aliens. Trembling. "We're not running," Marcus said firmly, surprising both siblings. "This is our home now. We defend it." Nira stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. "Marcus, you don't understand. They have weapons, technology far beyond yours. They are trained killers?" Marcus smiled grimly, moving to a sealed cabinet and pulling out military-grade weapons he'd hoped never to use again. "So am I." The first craft landed in the courtyard outside with barely a whisper of sound. Through the reinforced windows, Marcus could see 3 figures emerging tall, insectoid beings in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Their movements were fluid, dangerous, clearly adapted for hunting. Nira pressed close to Marcus's side, her warmth reassuring even in the face of danger. "They will not negotiate," she whispered. "My people sent them to retrieve us dead or alive." Marcus checked his rifle and handed Nira a pistol, noting how naturally she handled it. "Then we make sure alive isn't an option for them." The workshop's defenses activated as motion sensors detected the intruders. Emergency lights bathed everything in red, and blast shields slammed down over the windows. Marcus had spent months preparing for human threats, but the principles remained the same. "Kess, there's a safe room behind the water tanks," Marcus instructed. "Barricade yourself in, and don't come out until we call for you." The boy wanted to argue, but Nira spoke sharply in their native language, and he reluctantly obeyed. The first attack came as a concentrated energy blast that melted through the workshop's front door like it was made of paper. But Marcus had expected that the real entrance was now a kill zone, filled with improvised explosive devices and automated defenses. The explosion that followed shook the entire building. Through the smoke and debris, Marcus saw one of the hunters down, its armor cracked and sparking. The other 2 moved with increased caution, splitting up to flank the building. "They're adapting," Nira observed, pressed against Marcus's back as they took cover behind reinforced workbenches. "So are we," Marcus replied, triggering more defenses. The workshop filled with the sound of gunfire and energy weapons. But something unexpected was happening as the battle intensified. Nira seemed to transform. Her golden skin began to glow more brightly, the silver patterns racing with energy, and her movements became faster, more precise. When one of the hunters breached their position, Nira moved like liquid lightning, disarming it with techniques Marcus had never seen before. Their eyes met across the chaos, and he realized his gentle, brilliant Nira was also a trained warrior. Together, they fought with perfect synchronization, covering each other's weaknesses and amplifying their strengths. Marcus provided firepower and tactical knowledge, while Nira's speed and alien fighting techniques proved devastating against her own species' hunters. As the last attacker fell, Marcus and Nira found themselves breathing hard, covered in debris and adrenaline still coursing through their veins. They stared at each other across the destroyed workshop, both realizing they'd just fought and won their first battle as partners. Nira dropped her weapon and ran to Marcus. Throwing her arms around his neck, he caught her, lifting her off her feet, and their mouths met in a fierce, passionate kiss that spoke of survival triumph and the deep connection forged in combat. The victory over the first hunter team brought no relief, only the knowledge that more would come. As Marcus and Nira worked through the night to repair defenses and salvage alien technology from their defeated enemies, they both understood this was only the beginning. Kess emerged from the safe room pale but determined. The hunters travel in waves, he explained, his English improving rapidly under stress. 3 ships, then 9, then 27. It is their way. Marcus looked up from the alien weapon he was trying to reverse engineer. How long do we have? Perhaps 2 days, Nira said, her golden skin still faintly luminous from the earlier battle. They will study the failure of the first team, adapt their tactics. Good, Marcus said grimly. Gives us time to adapt to. What followed were 2 days of the most intense collaboration of Marcus's life. Working alongside Nira, he learned to integrate human engineering with alien technology in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Her knowledge of hunter tactics, combined with his military experience, created defensive systems that were both elegant and deadly. But it wasn't just their work that deepened during those frantic hours. Stolen moments between projects found them in each other's arms, sharing passionate kisses and whispered promises. When exhaustion finally forced them to rest, they lay together on Marcus's narrow bed, Nira's head on his chest as he stroked the silver patterns in her hair. If we don't survive tomorrow, she murmured against his skin, I want you to know that finding you was worth everything, worth leaving my world, worth the danger. Marcus tightened his arms around her.
We're going
to survive, and then we're going to build something beautiful together. Their lips met in the darkness, tender and desperate, sealing a promise that transcended species and circumstance. The second wave arrived at dawn on the 3rd day. 9 sleek hunter craft that descended like dark angels of death found a very different target than before. Marcus had transformed the entire industrial district into a maze of traps and kill zones. Salvaged alien shields protected key positions while hybrid human-alien weapon systems provided devastating firepower. Most importantly, he'd turned the hunters' own technology against them, using their energy signatures to mask human heat sources and confuse their sensors. Nira and Kess had taken positions on opposite sides of the complex, their natural speed and agility making them perfect for hit-and-run tactics. Marcus coordinated from his mobile command post, using his engineering expertise to turn the environment itself into a weapon. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Hunters moved through the ruins like deadly shadows, their advanced armor deflecting conventional weapons. But Marcus's hybrid defenses caught them off guard. Alien energy weapons powered by human ingenuity proving unexpectedly effective. When 3 hunters cornered Nira in the old factory, Marcus watched through security feeds as she fought with incredible grace and fury. Her movements were like a deadly dance, silver patterns blazing as she channeled energy through her body in ways that seemed to violate physics. But even she couldn't handle 3 opponents. Just as they closed in for the kill, Marcus detonated charges he'd placed in the factory's support pillars. The entire structure came down on the hunters, and for a terrifying moment, he thought he'd lost her too. Then Nira emerged from the rubble, battered but alive, and their eyes met across the battlefield. The look they shared was full of love, determination, and absolute trust. The tide turned when Kess managed to capture one of the hunter craft intact. His technical skills, inherited from the same advanced civilization as Nira, allowed him to turn the ship's weapons against its former allies. The psychological impact on the remaining hunters was devastating. Seeing their own technology turned against them broke their tactical confidence. As the last hunter craft crashed in flames, Marcus found himself in Nira's arms again, both of them shaking with exhaustion and relief. They'd done more than survive. They'd won decisively against supposedly superior technology through teamwork, innovation, and sheer human determination enhanced by alien knowledge. Is it over? Marcus asked, holding Nira close. She smiled up at him, her golden skin radiant in the morning light. The 3rd wave will see this defeat and mark us as too dangerous to pursue. My people respect strength above all else. As they surveyed their destroyed but victorious fortress, Marcus realized they'd created something unprecedented, fusion of human resilience and alien advancement that was stronger than either could have achieved alone. 6 months after the final battle, the industrial district had been transformed into something unprecedented, a thriving settlement that blended human engineering with alien aesthetics. Word had spread through underground networks about Marcus's victory over the hunters, and other refugees from various species had begun arriving, seeking the sanctuary he and Nira had created. The workshop had evolved into a proper research facility, where human and alien minds collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of what either species thought possible. Kes had proven himself to be a prodigy, creating technologies that seemed like magic but followed principles that Marcus was slowly learning to understand. But the most remarkable transformation was in Marcus himself. The solitary scavenger had become a leader, a protector, and most importantly, a partner to someone who understood both his dreams and his capabilities. He found Nira in their private quarters, space they'd built together that perfectly blended human comfort with alien elegance. She was working on her latest project, a communication array that could reach across the galaxy, potentially contacting other refugee groups or even negotiating with the more progressive elements of her homeworld's government. "Any luck?" Marcus asked, sliding his arms around her waist from behind. She leaned back against him, her warmth seeping through his shirt. "The signal is getting stronger. I think we might actually reach the outer colonies soon." Marcus pressed his lips to the silver patterns on her neck, feeling them pulse with gentle energy at his touch. "And then we offer them what we've built here. Proof that cooperation between species creates something better than either could achieve alone." She turned in his arms, and Marcus marveled again at how perfectly they fit together. Months of working, fighting, and living side by side had created a bond deeper than either had thought possible. "Speaking of cooperation," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a husky whisper, "Kes is working late in the lab again tonight." Nira's eyes sparkled with mischief and desire. "Whatever will we do with all that privacy?" Their lips met in a kiss that spoke of passion grown stronger through shared trials. Marcus lifted her easily, carrying her to their bed as she laughed and peppered his face with kisses. Later, as they lay entwined in the afterglow of their lovemaking, Nira traced patterns on Marcus's chest with her fingertips. "I never thought I could be this happy," she murmured. "When we crashed here, I expected only to survive. Instead, I found home." Marcus caught her hand and brought it to his lips, kissing her palm gently. "We found each other. Everything else just followed naturally." A soft chime from Nira's communication array interrupted the quiet moment. She sat up, excitement replacing contentment as she read the display. "Marcus, look at this. We have a response from the outer colonies. They want to establish formal diplomatic contact." Marcus grinned, pulling her back down for another kiss. "Tomorrow we'll be ambassadors. Tonight you're just mine." As dawn broke over their settlement, Marcus stood on the balcony of their home, watching the mixed community below, beginning their daily routines. Human children played alongside young aliens, their laughter a universal language. Engineers from 3 different species collaborated on a new water purification system. Couples of various combinations shared breakfast in the common areas. Nira joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist and resting her cheek against his shoulder blade. "Regrets?" she asked softly. Marcus covered her hands with his own, marveling at how different his life had become since that morning in the scrapyard. He'd been searching for salvage and found salvation instead. "Only one," he said, turning to. Face or worry flickered across Nira's features. "What?" Marcus dropped to one knee and pulled out a ring. He'd crafted himself human gold inlaid with alien crystals that pulsed with soft light. "That I waited so long to ask you to marry me." Tears of joy sparkled in Nira's luminous eyes as she gazed down at the man who had saved her, fought beside her, and built a new world with her. "Yes," she whispered, then louder as he slipped the ring onto her finger. "Yes, always yes," as they kissed in the morning light, the settlement bustling with life around them. It was impossible to say where human achievement ended and alien innovation began. They had created something entirely new together, a home built not just from scrap and salvage, but from love, trust, and the radical belief that differences in species mattered far less than similarities of heart. Their story had begun with a crash in the ruins, but it would continue among the stars.